Well, my name's Blake Griffith. I'm a financial planner from Calgary, Alberta. And not only is this my first Mdrt that I'm attending, but this is also the first session that I'm ever attending is my own that I'm speaking at. So quite a unique experience for me. I've been an Mdrt member for 8 years, and I am currently a Court of the Table member. So just some quick background on me and my business. We have our team of 3 assistants and 1 associate advisor. Our focus has largely been in the owner-manager market. And within that owner-manager market, we have a niche focus to work with engineers. And when we look at our niche within our business, we really focus on investment planning, permanent insurance, but our big thing and what we're kind of talking about today is partnering with those tax professionals, accountants, lawyers, and how to make use of that to better build your business, which has been a big key, in regards with my business and how I've had the success that I've had this far. So, a big thing for us is we built an investment business pretty quick over the last 4 years. We basically built our investment from nothing up to $110 million. So that's been a big challenge, but also a big win for us. So let's talk a little bit about accountants and lawyers. So just a show of hands, who here has done a sales presentation to a client and they've said, I need to talk to my accountant? Okay, now maybe I'll get a further show of hands. When you've done that presentation or they went and talked to the accountant, how many times have you had the accountant basically knock down what you're trying to say or disapprove of some of the proposals that you've made? Well, that was really my big frustration that I had in the business, is that I took a degree in financial services, so, and I started in accounting, so I had a lot of tax planning knowledge heading in, and a lot of the things that I was recommending to my clients really weren't that advanced, in terms of some tax sheltering, reorganization, etc. And it wasn't, I feared that a lot of the accountants were just discrediting what we were saying because they didn't fully understand. Because is it not true that a lot of accountants aren't really tax professionals, right? They are more bookkeepers, a lot of them, and they don't have the advanced knowledge on tax planning that we really seek out. So I said, you know what, enough of this. I'm going to build a partnership with a tax lawyer and a tax accountant, and they're going to work on my team. And then I'm going to ensure that this doesn't happen anymore in the future. So we're going to talk a lot in this presentation about how I built those relationships and how to build those relationships. But I just want to quickly say that these relationships don't happen overnight. And who here has a successful referral relationship with another professional, mortgage broker, or anyone else? Well, as you know, they take time. They don't happen overnight, and it takes a lot of work. So initially, when I set up these relationships with accountant and lawyers, I was more benefiting internally from that as opposed to externally. So what I mean by that, I would make a sales presentation to a client. I would have my accountant and lawyer work with me on it. Then I would present it to the client. It would go to their accountant and lawyer. And finally, the accountants and lawyers my clients' accountants and lawyers were starting to understand that how we were doing things, because my accountant and lawyer were helping us do cash flow reports, citing articles of the Tax Act, and doing all the things that we need to do to show the clients why our recommendations really make sense. Has anyone here had a referral from an accountant and lawyer before? That's a pretty powerful referral, isn't it? I think it's the best referral you can get. A couple years ago, I had a referral from my tax lawyer that I work with, and they own a manufacturing company, and I met with their accountant, we developed cash flow reports, we did everything we can, and by the time that I got that referral, we solidified it. I sat down with the client, we recommended $150,000 a year par policy in terms of its annual premium. And what the client said at the end, he said, Blake, a lot of this stuff is over our head. We don't really understand it, but we're going to do this with you because JR, my tax lawyer, referred you and we trust him. So to me, that was a testament of just how powerful these referrals can be. One misconception that I see a lot of financial advisors making is they somehow think that accountants and lawyers don't need to build their business, or they're in this esteemed position where they don't have targets to make or revenue targets. But something really important to understand is that they really do need, they're in growth mode as well. They want to build their businesses and they want to grow. So don't be scared to think that they're not willing to partner up to look for opportunities. The next thing is tax accountants and lawyers are happy to provide free quotes. What I do in my business is we sit down, I'm going to get into this really in depth, but we'll have a letter of engagement that allows me to collect all the information from the client. I'll take all that information back, and then I'll sit down with my tax lawyer and my tax accountant, and we'll be kind of like the Mayo Clinic of the financial services world, and we'll roundtable ideas and discussions and put things forth. And they're more than happy to provide that free information to me so that I can present it back to the clients. Because most of these tax lawyers and tax accountants, they're sitting down in an initial meeting, an initial consultation, and they're not billing for that initial meeting anyways. So they're more than happy to share that information with me to send it back to the clients. So just so you guys are aware, they are not expecting to be paid for this. And maybe to say that another way, if an accountant approached you and said, "Hi John, I know you're a financial advisor and I have all these millionaire clients. Would you be willing to provide, some insurance quotes for them and stuff like that when I need them?" Well, we would be jumping all over that opportunity, right? And that's really the golden opportunity that's there for the accountants and lawyers as well. And that's, I think, a big focus that we need to understand. The other thing is when you're in your business, you don't necessarily understand the amount of referrals you can make, whether it be tax optimization, estate planning, wills, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't really think in my business I had that much to send to an accountant and lawyer, but over that time, I ended up, over the last 2 years, I've probably sent $200,000 per year in billable work to them. And I certainly didn't think I had that much opportunity within my business. So don't underestimate the value that you guys have within your business to help out other professionals. So now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So how do we build these relationships? How did I build these relationships? And what kind of process that I would suggest that you guys follow? So the first thing I would suggest is to find reputable, and I underline tax professionals, because again, the work that we do in the financial planning and the forward-looking projections, which ways, when we're doing forward-looking projections, which ways do most accountants and lawyers look? They look backwards, right? So, but when you're looking at a tax lawyer and a tax accountant, which way are they looking? They're actually looking forward, right? Because they're saying, okay, well, how can we incorporate a trust or a holding company? How can we help these clients out in the future? But the problem is that these accountants and tax lawyers, do they have really fancy projection software that we have? Generally, no. They don't have, NaviPlan and these sorts of tools that allow us to create forward-looking reports on what clients' assets might be like. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But the important thing is to search out for tax professionals. Today, I'm aligned with what I would think are the two of the most brightest minds in the tax planning world, both a tax accountant and a tax lawyer in Western Canada. They do great work for my clients. And we kind of work as a team now, and I've found that to be very successful. Look for accountants and lawyers that are in the same market as you, right? So if you're going to focus on, let's say, doctors, right? I work kind of with engineers, but if you're going to focus on doctors, that's where I would suggest you focus. Now, I've heard a lot of financial advisors that go out and they think that they're going to make 10 relationships with different accounting firms and 10 relationships with different law firms. And what I would suggest is to just focus on one. Because if you can get one relationship with a good tax accountant, a good tax lawyer, that's all you're ever going to need. So just really focus on developing one close relationship. And how do you start that? So once you've looked, whether it be online through the phone book, networking, talking to people to figure out who you want to focus on, offer to buy them lunch, take them out for coffee, take them golfing. On the golf courses where I met the two professionals that I work with now, and but don't be afraid to get out there and say, can I buy you a lunch? Can I buy you a coffee? When you're sitting down with those accountants and lawyers, tell them that you're creating a multidisciplinary team, okay, to roundtable client files and look for holistic solutions. Optimization strategies, those things could look great. The one thing I'm going to hit on again is time. And like I said before, these relationships, if you want them to be successful, you have to focus in on the time. Now, when it comes down to the actual process that I follow when I'm meeting a client, the first step is the letter engagement, and I would say that is absolute key. So who here uses a letter of engagement? Okay, sometimes. Well, if you don't use a letter of engagement, I would suggest doing so. And what oftentimes it'll allow you within that letter of engagement is to disclose the professionals that you work with on your team, your tax accountant, your tax lawyer, and let them know that you're going to be reviewing their file with your internal team. Now, oftentimes I do those today on a no-names basis. I say I have Mr. X and Mr. Y. They currently have this company, here's the situation, and then we find out recommendations from there. So I think that would be probably a fine thing to do without a letter of engagement, as long as you're doing it on a no names and keeping everything very confidential. The second thing that I found is when I first started doing that, what were a lot of my clients saying? Well, they were saying, Blake, we already have an accountant. Blake, we already have a lawyer. We're not looking to replace them. So I started inserting a sentence into that process where I say, we're not here to sever your existing relationships with your professionals. These people work on my team to ensure that we can come up with any optimal strategies that might, enhance your financial plan. So that's an important sentence I would insert in there, and that might save you guys some of the heartache I had initially with this. From there, so you've met with the client, you've had them sign a letter of engagement, you've let the client know that you're not there to necessarily break those bonds, and now you're going to roundtable the discussion with your existing professionals. So that might mean telling them their goals, telling them what they're focusing on, see if there's any optimization strategies. From there, I would then create a report. Now, most people, when they're creating a financial plan for a client, they're going to have, a financial report. We call that our financial plan, financial projection. But within that, whether it's an Excel table provided from the accountant, whether you use the information and make that or make it into a PowerPoint, we would then, and what we do in our business is we then compile all the recommendations from the other professionals, and we're acting as the quarterback or the concierge for the client. Now, once that full report's done and we've quantified those benefits for the accountant and lawyer, then what we do is we present the copies of that not only to the client, but to the accountant and lawyer. And this is a way that we're actually teaching now our accountants and lawyers the good work that we do. So it's a great opportunity when they can now see in every report we do the benefits that we're showing the client through recommending this investment or this insurance policy, but also quantifying the benefits in everything that they do as well. Now, I'm going to underline this because this is the most important thing to do, is to be sure that you introduce the strategies to the clients. So I really want to hammer that home, is that you're not just referring them to an accountant and lawyer. You're the one to get ideas. You're the one who's doing that. So you're getting the strategies, you're getting all the information, and then you're presenting those strategies to the accountant and lawyer, or to the clients in a very abbreviated fashion, and then sending the referral off, saying, we think we can save you $300,000 a year in taxes payable. Here's the accountant that can go do that for you, and here's a rough idea of the strategy that they're going to be looking at. Now, what are the two big benefits there? In my business, I've been able to take credit for the savings and the optimization strategies that they're doing. The second big thing is knowledge is power, right? And who holds the knowledge is in control. So what my clients are looking at me as today is this big resource, this big knowledge base who gets to share this information with the clients. So learning is the first benefit, and the second benefit is being able to take the credit for the recommendations. So to give you guys a couple quick examples of those scenarios that I'm kind of talking about, I had an engineering firm that my client sold his share of it for $5 million, and he had a $1 million tax liability. So the firm doing the transaction was Ernst & Young, and they said there's nothing can be done here from a tax planning department, Dan. We just need to get this over with. Then his existing accountant said, yeah, there's nothing we can really do here. And I said, well, you know, my tax lawyers, their motto is there always is a way to do something. So I organized this meeting. The client reluctantly came downtown. We met with the tax law firm, and they devised a way to save him $950,000 of taxes payable. So then his accountant, his lawyer came in, they looked at it, they said, yep, this totally makes sense. And in the end, the client then had to invest his $5 million. And who do you think he invested it with? With me, right? Because we're getting credit for that because we're bringing it to the table. Another good example is a building materials company. Now, this is an existing client I had worked with for years, already have their business, but last year they needed to reorganize their company. I had the relationship. I referred it off to JR and their team. They did $100,000 in billable work with this building materials company. So great, like JR, my tax lawyer, is loving me. But then on the flip side, he was able to save, not only able to accomplish the reorganization that they wanted and bring their kids in to buy out the company, but save them a boatload of cash. So again, we got all the credit. Those are two referrals that I made to them that worked in my favor. Now on the flip side, I had a physio client, or my tax lawyer has a physio client, now he's one of my better clients. He was referred to me. And in that situation, the client didn't really understand. He said, you know, JR's recommending me this family trust, this holding company, but we have no idea, you know, why he's recommending this, and it just seems like he wants to bill us a bunch of fees. So we went through and did an overall financial plan with the client, and by the end, because I understood what his life goals were, what his cash flow was, when he planned to sell his business and all these other things, I was able to show him why he should do this reorganization better than the tax lawyer could. So not only did he become a platinum client of ours because it was referred to by the lawyer, but the lawyer finally got to do the reorganization he had been proposing, you know, for the last 5 or 6 years. The last one's a golf course architect. That one was really interesting because, what do we got for time here? Okay, so a couple more minutes. So we had a golf course architect. And in that situation, a tax lawyer had previously, 15 years ago, done a reorganization. It was very complex, but it allowed the clients to take $1 million out of their corporation. But they didn't know, the accountant didn't know, and it was only until we got our team involved and started looking through into the depths of the previous work that had been done that the clients understood that they could take out $1 million tax-free out of their company. So it was kind of like this transaction that nobody understood the benefits, but we were able to bring that to the table, and now again they're one of our top clients. So why? So you know, kind of concluding this presentation, why do you want to do this? The first thing I think is quite obvious is you want to leverage your value proposition with clients. Okay, last week, great example of that. Now, who here has made a mistake before with a client in their business? Everyone. I hope everyone. Maybe not, but you know, we had a new admin that came in and made 3 mistakes with the same client. The only 3 mistakes she made, all with the same client. The client was not happy at all, and I decided, you know what, I need to call like a special meeting with this client and beg for his forgiveness and hope that he stays with us. So, you know, the last year in the Canadian markets hadn't been that good, so his investments really hadn't performed that well. We had made these mistakes. I thought, this client's going to leave us. Well, in that meeting, the client said, you know, Blake, if we would have left, we would already be gone. And the reason why we're staying with you is because you've been able to do what the bank couldn't. We were looking for a financial plan and somebody that could help us on an overall basis of what we were doing. And you saved us last year over $100,000 in taxes with that strategy that you recommended. So he said, we really appreciate it and we're not going anywhere. And that really, you know, kind of hit home a few days before I'm doing this presentation as to why these relationships are so key. The other thing it allows you to do is build your knowledge base for free. I've become quite a well-versed tax planner just from these relationships, because every time they have to give out a recommendation to one of our prospective clients, they first have to teach it to me so I can then teach it back to the client in layman's terms. So when the tax law firm now, they have a new strategy that they're coming down the pipeline, or they're having like a budget meeting, who gets invited? Me. That's who they want to go to these things, because they know that I'm out there working on their behalf to get more business. The other thing is clients' needs are not one-dimensional. If you had a certain client file and you went to a tax lawyer, a tax accountant, and a financial planner, how many different sets of recommendations are you going to get? You're going to get 3. Because there's not one specific way to solve somebody's problem through one single, disciplinary way. So it's only by working in a multidisciplinary scenario that you can address all clients' needs and find out what the true optimization strategy is. On top of that, though, people are starting to gravitate towards multifamily office concepts, and this is a way for you to kind of build one with your existing business that you have. And the other thing it really does, it elevates you when you're talking to other accountants and lawyers. In Canada, we had something called these new private service businesses tax rules. And in Calgary, the accountant and lawyer, they formed this thing called the PSB committee with a bunch of other tax lawyers and accountants. I was the only one on the chair. And it really allowed me to become better versed and better advise my clients in the future. And clients are feeling assured knowing you work as a team. So my final tips for the presentation, learn often. So make sure that you're learning as much as you can from these accountants and lawyers. Teach them as much as you can, meet as much as you can, and reciprocate those opportunities often. And also be different. A quick one on that is that a lot of clients are saying they're dealing with me, not with their other people that they've been proposing to, because we look at things differently. We look at it from an overall financial perspective. So I'm out of time, guys, but I will open it up for some questions. Thank you. Yes. Oh, sorry.
How many years did it take you in developing those relationships with accountants and lawyers before it started coming to fruition?
Okay, so the question was, how many years did it take working with these accountants and lawyers before it came to fruition? Now, I would say it was less than a year before I started getting referrals from them, but what really sped up that process is because we were sitting and roundtabling client situations, but then these really cool reports that we do as financial planners, I was giving it back to them and presenting them to show them all the cool things we did with their clients. Oh.
Sorry, the other speakers are
Okay, I guess that's all we have for questions. Hit me up over here if you guys want to chat some more. Thanks.